Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us today. It is November 14th, 2017. We're the Metaphysical Moms. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Carrie.
And we're so glad you've joined us here. So we've got another amazing show today. This is Carrie's baby. This is something she has been so excited.
I have.
And she's been teaching me all about everything we're going to talk about today.
Well, it just sort of... So I've had these feelings and I've had this intuition that there's something going on. And there's a behind the curtain. And I couldn't really formulate what it was. I just knew that something wasn't right. And whether it's our schools, our government especially, the way we heal, the way, just really kind of everything, all the different systems we have in place just don't feel right. And that's been this way for a long time. And so then I found today's guest, who is actually, I'm pointing at our computer that you can't see, and his work just resonates with me. It feels true, it feels right, and it's comprehensive. And so put your seatbelts on. We're about to blast off.
Yeah, buckle up, guys. We're in for a wild joyride today because we are welcoming Mr. James Gilliland. Hi, James.
Woohoo!
Hi, how you doing?
We are doing wonderful. Thank you so much. You know, you're getting up early. You're out in Washington State, and you're beautiful in all your colors. You've got some gorgeous paintings behind you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And is it getting cold up there yet?
Yeah, it is, actually. We had a couple snowstorms already, but it's already melted off again. But I think the next one, it's definitely going to stick.
Change is winter's coming.
Yes, I think...
Yeah.
Today we're getting down to about 86. I mean, it's we're not quite there yet. So, but we're trying to usher it in.
Well, I'm going to read a little bio about you, James, for folks that don't know. You are a best-selling author, an internationally known lecturer. You're a minister. You're a counselor. You've had multiple near-death experiences. You have contact with extraterrestrials. You are a facilitator of a lot of Eastern disciplines. And you're, from everything that I've witnessed and learned from you, you're here to really help us, to teach us and guide us to wake up and heal humanity and the earth. And you teach higher dimensional realities from experience. So you really want people to have their own experience of their own divinity, of their own ascension. And you're here to help give that to us or teach us and guide us in that. So thank you for accepting your gifts and doing what you do.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's I don't have a choice, basically. You know, when you have your soul, when you connect with your soul, and your soul has its own unique purpose. You know, it's really, you don't have a choice. You have to go in that direction. But you know, I've tried to walk away from it several times. And just
they keep pulling you back.
Yeah. I just want to go out and garden and live in the woods, basically. But I'm kind of a reluctant teacher, you might say.
Well, thank you. And so you're also the founder of the Gilliland Estate, but most people know it as the Eceti Ranch. And Eceti stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, if I can say that intelligently. And you have documented and shared all of this multidimensional contact phenomenon on your YouTube channel. And we'll put the links to everything that we're going to talk about on our YouTube channel and our JoyRideShow.com so people can find you. And you've written several books to really help guide people in this process and the things that are available for them to experience by themselves if we can shift out of this paradigm that we've kind of found ourselves in and open up and experience. And you're so articulate and intelligent and so likable and personable. It's like it makes it like, okay, what have you got to say? That's really cool.
We can do this.
We can do this.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a long list of things you've done.
You've been busy.
Yeah, I have. I've been doing a lot of international things lately. You know, but it's time. Things are really opening up right now. These next 2 months, November and December, for years I've told people that this November and December are, buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. Things are going to move really quickly, and it's a multidimensional experience. I know for some of the housewives might have a little trouble with this because they're just a lot of them are just dealing with keeping their kids fed and things like that, getting them off to school and stuff like that. But there is a trans-dimensional war going on, and the good news is we've won. We've cleaned up these other dimensions that have been influencing us. And once we understand how things work, when you climb the ladder of power and wealth, unfortunately, when you get into the upper levels, you get into the bankster elite, the cabal, and things like that. But when you go the next level up, there's actually some unseen negative influences and entities that are running the show. And some people call it the Archon network or the Draconian network or whatever. It's actually a grid of consciousness, and that's why there's so much inhumanity going on here, is because of that grid and those entities that are working off that grid. The good news is that grid has been torn down, and the fifth dimensional grid is taking its place. So what's happening is that universal law, like the source itself and all these other multidimensional beings, are coming in and to assist, with this. But universal law is within that grid. It's pressing in very hard on the planet right now. And so also the Earth itself, she has a being, a spirit. Some people call her Gaia, Sophia Gaia. Everybody has a different name for her. And actually she is merged with the Palladian goddess type energy and has had an upgrade as well. So, I always like that saying, resistance is futile, because the Earth itself is ascending. She's going to the next level. The higher dimensional beings, the fifth dimensional grid, is pressing in. And so we have to rise to the occasion. We have to become frequency specific to the Earth and her evolutionary process.
Okay,
well,
that's a lot. Yes. Okay, so that is, so when we get rid of one grid and we add, and we're bringing in the 5D grid, how, is there a time that we don't have the grid, or is it seamless? I mean, does it just sort of,
or is it the split that we
we
hear
keep
about,
hearing about,
where they both exist?
Well, there's kind of a time lapse between the new grid and the old grid. The old grid is gone, and now the physical counterparts to the old grid are floundering. So you have the puppet masters, which are non-physical beings, and they call them the Archons, and they could be like negative grays, reptilians, astral beings, kind of demonic type weird stuff. Well, all that stuff's being taken out. And so now the puppet masters have been removed, so you've got the puppets that are floundering now because they don't have the protection, they don't have that connection anymore, and they're just falling apart, and their empires are falling apart. And so we're seeing that transitionary period right now that we're in right now where the old programs, the unbridled greed and the tyranny and the power over others, all those programs are collapsing.
Well, so where did they go? Where did the puppet masters go, and how did we get rid of them? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, a lot of people they think that the universe is just like, you have like God, and then you have the angels and the clouds and the harps, and that's it, but it's much more complex than that. And so, we've been working with beings all the way up to the 13th dimension, that have been coming in, and they're all part of this process. So there are some very spiritually and technologically advanced beings coming in that are our ancient ancestors, that are off-world, that are coming in to assist in this process. And so you've got the Pleiadians, who actually they were the originators of Atlantis and Lemuria. Those two colonies are coming in, and they have more genetic stock than any other race here. So they've kind of, the scepter has been passed to them. But you've got the Orion Council of Light, and they went through the wars in Orion, with the Greys and the Reptilians, and they were victorious there. They're very artistic, very advanced race, and they were hit very hard, and they weren't ready for it. But because they are very advanced, even technologically advanced, they were more advanced than the reptilians. They just weren't geared up for it. They weren't geared for war. so they had to gear up for war and take care of business. And so they're like street smart. They're very street savvy, with these entities, and they're coming in as part of the planetary liberation process. And then you've got Andromedans with their mythologically known as archangels that have magnetized light bodies and light ships and things like that. And you've got Arcturians, Andromedans. I'm trying to think of who I've missed. Syrians. And now this is a little walk on the wild side. The movie Avatar, those beings do exist, and they are very protective, and they're all throughout history. Sekhmet was one of them. She's about a 14-foot tall lion being that walked right alongside the Anunnaki. And there's pictures of her, and statues of her in ancient Egypt.
Sure.
Narissa in the ancient Vedic scriptures is the protector of the gods, and you see Narissa, which is this 17-foot tall lion being with Lakshmi and the other gods sitting on his lap. Well, these stories are not just stories; they're actually true events that happened in our ancient history, and they're returning with the benevolent Anunnaki. Anunnaki just means those who came from heaven to earth. Well, they're returning with the benevolent Anunnaki and to kind of right a wrong, to take care of, to call the fallen Anunnaki before the councils and straighten them out. And so that's happening. And what's happening?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so you were saying that Anunnaki were actually just from heaven to earth.
Yeah, and the benevolent ones have
Yeah.
returned to right to make good.
Yeah, to right the wrong. And I had one of these beings appear to me, and she was about 8'6", and she looked like Cameron Diaz, basically, just beautiful, green eyes, very tall, wearing a headdress because their heads are a little different than ours are. They have the more little elongated heads, you might say. Yeah, beautiful, just drop dead beautiful, and the energy that was coming off her was it was overwhelming. I mean, all I could say was like, "Yes, ma'am," when she appeared to me, and she said, she told me, she said, "You really need to look, into the real history of Earth, what's really happened over time. The Earth has been colonized several times, and your images of your gods and things like that came from this, and some were benevolent, some weren't, and some were tyrants, and some fell." And she said that it's time for humanity to grow up and really get involved with their real history and learn where all the religions came from, the origin of the religion. And so, it's very hard for people to make their own personal God connection when you think you're going to get toasted,
Right.
or they have images of a God nobody can appease, this jealous, wrathful God. And
The Old Testament, exactly.
And you have to be perfect, you have to this and this and this and this, and it's all ridiculous. Those are images from the ancient history. But, even Jesus, when he came, he brought a new covenant, and the new covenant was the image of an all-loving, all-forgiving God. And so how can you have a jealous, wrathful, genocidal maniac and then have an all-loving, all-forgiving God and say they're the same God, So it makes no sense whatsoever. But if you read the Old Testament, that was the jealous, wrathful tyrant, and then the New Testament you have the all-loving, all-forgiving God. And I read Ezekiel. There's a disc that comes out of the firmament. It has bronze feet like calves. It has fire and brimstone coming out from underneath it. When it landed, it sounded like 1,000 rushing rivers. And then supposedly God steps out and starts giving orders. And they had cherubim, which were wheels within wheels with flashing lights all around them coming out of the mothership, you might say. So anyway, now this was an encounter with the wrathful God because he ordered 6 of his men with their shattering weapons to go and destroy all the men, women, and children of Israel. So you look at this, how can 6 men destroy a whole city? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever unless you bring in, advanced technology, basically, and some pretty extreme weaponry. But, we have to read this without the superstition, without, we have to have the Buddha mind, the fresh mind when we read this, and then we can understand what really happened in the past. So we have to dispel the old wounds and traumas in our past history because that's what's blocking us from reuniting with the God within each and every one of us, the all-loving, all-forgiving God, and get away from these old programs.
Oh, it's that victim. I mean, that has been probably one of the biggest shifts I've had was, I'm not a victim. I've created everything I have or I lack, and that is so empowering. She does EFT, and the first time she told me that I actually attracted cancer, I just wanted to throttle her. I mean, just angry. It's like, I didn't, damn, what are you talking about? But then when I realized, when you figure it out and you start seeing where you drew it in, and you're not really a victim. So I completely agree with that. So,
well, you know that whole movement right now, that whole, I wanted to cover that. I'm going to get real down to earth now, but this whole program, like Antifa and Black Lives Matters and Open Borders, all those guys, they have this victim program. And they're holding their arm up and screaming, "Victim, victim, victim!" And that holds them in that role. It actually holds them in that victim role, and they're never going to evolve. They're stuck there until they let go of that and shift into forgiveness. But also to realize is that they're being played, by the very people that they hate, and they abhor, or they're being played because, like Antifa, Soros and those guys are actually funding Antifa. And Soros is a very known and admitted Nazi, and so they're against Nazis and they're against fascism. But their leader is a Nazi, and they act like fascists. So their emotional wounds are being played. They're being played, and they're actually working for the very establishment they think they're going against. And all of these organizations, we need to go to the top, see who's funding them. And really realize that we end up working for the dragon and we don't even know. I mean, we're working for the beast and not even knowing it. So people really need to do some research and look at what they're doing out there. You can't march for peace unless you are at peace. So.
Well, and that brings up. I actually asked Ashley this. It is because I get so angry when I listen. I mean, when I watch the CNN or Fox News or any of them, which I don't now. I mean, I'm completely unplugged. But then I used to watch, I don't know, John Oliver, who I thought he was so funny. I can't even watch that now. It's like and it's not that I'm a Trump fan. It's just I'm anti that. I don't. This has to be better than that. But I come out so hysterical, and I have to find a way to be at peace with that, to rise above just the whole thing and say, wow, we're being so human. And I mean, do you have tips for that? Like how to not engage that without
it would be really easy to put the blinders on and just consume and eat and do your work and keep your head down and not look behind the curtain, because it's huge. It's confusing.
And it's like pulling a string.
Yeah. You got to practice loving detachment. It's like I can watch that thing and I don't get wrapped up in it. And if I do see myself getting emotionally pulled into it, I go, oh, wait a second, and I just do clear the energy. But I tell you what I've seen lately is like Fox News, like Hannity and those guys. They actually had me on the show, which was amazing. It blew my mind, But they're hitting it. They're bringing in some really powerful women too, and they're just nailing it. And they're not going all the way. There's a lot more information there that they can't really give and stay credible, basically, because. Although they're going after the puppets, you might want to tell people, hey, guess what? There's some puppet masters that are creating all this pain and suffering and this lack and all the other stuff going on here, and we need to go clean that up. But most of humanity aren't ready for that. They aren't ready to realize that there are certain groups that actually have been feeding off of all this discord, and and so, basically that's what all these groups that are creating all this dissension are about. They're actually feeding that other level, which most people aren't aware. And, and what's really sad too is in the feminine side of things. I see these women up there just screaming and yelling and flipping out, and they're so wounded. They're so deeply wounded. they don't represent the divine feminine in any way whatsoever, and they're becoming models, for a lot of younger women coming up are seeing these women, and they're like they're models and things like that. And then they start pushing Sharia law, and I said, are you serious?
Wait.
You have a woman there pushing Sharia law as one of your spokesmen in this feminist movement. And I go, have you done any research whatsoever? You're losing all credibility, because a dog has more rights under Sharia law than a woman, and it's okay to torture, rape, beat, and do whatever you want with women. And it's they really need to do some research and look how women are treated, under Sharia law.
So I hate to be ignorant, but tell me about Sharia law.
Because I can't imagine. I know what it is, but I can't imagine that anybody would think that's okay. I mean, it strips you of all of your rights as a female or human.
Well, it's they haven't done the research, and they just see this woman as an oppressed woman speaking up, but she's actually a victim that's suffering from Stockholm syndrome, that's actually trying to push, the very program that actually victimized her,
Okay.
So
there's
like,
I'm sorry. So there's a story there. So what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they have these movements, and then this woman, she's famous, and she pushes Sharia law. She's a Muslim woman, and I'm not. I just watched a little bit about it, and I just didn't keep. I just said, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, this is so. It looks basically. First of all, it totally destroys the feminine movement, because to have somebody like that as one of your main speakers, and because you're totally discrediting yourself. And really, the feminine energy is that divine, nurturing goddess, standing in your power. It's but you do things through love and it's not trying to be like act like a man and be aggressive and scream and yell. I mean, that hasn't worked. It's never worked.
No.
So why would you try that same program? It's like that old patriarchal program is what's collapsing right now. And the divine feminine is what's coming in, but the divine feminine is not screaming and yelling and freaking and I've hung out with a lot of these beings. I've actually had Mary appear, and I have photographs of her, and I've been working with her all my life. And
Mary.
Magdalene?
And Mary Magdalene, and all of them. I work with them constantly, and I mean they're here to empower women, but. What the thing is about the feminine energy is it's the feminine side. We have both male and female within it. But your feminine side is more subjective, it's more receptive, it's more connected to the source. Mm-hmm. Your emotional body is 10 times bigger than your intellect, your mental body. And it's easier for women to connect to the source. And a matriarchal society is actually better than a patriarchal society, but let's just find the balance within each of us. A balanced society is even better. But what I've seen over and over again is that when you're screaming and yelling and trying to punch somebody, and that's coming out of your right side, that's your male side,
That's your force.
That is
and
aggressive.
We really need a lot more of the feminine coming in. And you can stand in your power and you can still say what needs to be said, but get educated and make sure you're not serving the very people that have suppressed you for thousands of years. That's the main thing.
See, but James, that's the thing. To educate yourself, you have to know where to go, and hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
guys, he is a great resource. But there's so much out there. There's just so much noise, and I know I found Dr. Greer, I found these people, I found those people, and it's like, okay. Yeah, I hear what they're saying. It doesn't really fit. And so next, and it's just a matter of, I guess, feeling that out and feeling what resonates. But it is hard to figure out who's behind all of this.
So I do.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Well, a lot, like you're talking, a lot of that stuff is very regimented. It's very, very male, ego oriented, and you have to just step away from that stuff, and find the people that really resonate in the heart. There's some people I've just been blown away with, and I'm not very, I don't want to do name dropping, but Teresa Yarnos, I've done her show, and she did a really good job. She does a great job out there. And she really comes from joy and from the heart, but she also covers, covers the important things. And you've got Candace Owens blows me away. She's, I don't know if you're supposed to say African American or black, or I don't know what you're going to say, but she really represents the black people, and she's just amazing. I mean, she comes out and she's just like on it, and she's totally plugged into the higher levels when you watch her operate. But she's right in the trenches and just calling it out. And, it's sad, too, because all of these programs are dividing people. They're separating people. And we have to get away from the division game, because that's how they control people. And that's how they have to keep the social unrest going and everybody fighting with each other. And that's their gig, and we have to get away from that. But I mean, there's some people that are really I've really seen a balance now coming in, because even in a lot of the news things, they're bringing a lot of women on and balancing this out. And I think eventually the women that are working for CNN are going to figure it out, and just go, I can't do this anymore. But it's we call it the criminal news network, or the CIA news network, or whatever. There's NASA papers. In the NASA papers, it actually names CNN as their mind control aspect.
The NASA papers.
For the masses. Yeah.
How do you find that?
People should, what's that? Just type in NASA papers.
It'll pop up? Okay.
Yeah, it should pop up.
And they name CNN as that.
What's that?
I'm just saying, and they name CNN as a mind control device.
Yeah, it says it right in there that they're going to use CNN. And they do. You watch them spin everything. They don't cover the real news. They have an agenda, and they spin everything. And it's very a disempowering news network. And I just watch them work, and I can't even, when I watch them, I can see beyond what they're saying. I see their whole agenda and their program and what they're trying to create. And, they're basically New World Order spokesmen. That's their program.
Okay, so that reminds me. So when the whole England leaving the EU thing happened, I was just, a husband is a wonderful man. I mean, mine is, he's great, he's fair, he's kind, but he just kept saying, no, these are Trumpers. No, this is bad, honey, this is, we need open borders, we need, it's like, and I couldn't say why I was so against it. So Tiffany and I were there right afterwards. Everybody we talked to, and not a whole lot, but everybody we talked to said, oh, I was for it. I wanted to leave. That's not what we heard here. Here we heard that people woke up the next day and said, what is it? What did I vote for? And that they all thought it was wrong. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, I don't know if you've ever heard of this group, the Bilderberg and blah, blah, blah. And she said, yes. And did you know that they've actually met twice this year? And they never do that. It's like, oh, really? And so people are starting to figure this out. But inherently, I knew that this isn't right. I don't know why it's not right, but it doesn't seem like a handful of people having all this control is a good thing.
Over everybody else.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's the thing, is that what I was saying before is you have the Archon grid, or the draconian grid,
greed,
and you have
power,
these other unseen entities, and they're operating the power elite. And the good news is a lot of the power elite are actually breaking away, and they're saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to follow in my father's footsteps and things like that. And they're just saying no more. And so there's a lot of chaos in there. And those people are not frequency specific to the evolution of Earth and where she's going. So they will implode. Their health is going to fail. Their empires are going to go down. They are going to be held accountable. And that's basically what universal law is all about, because with this new energy, universal law is what's coming in with it. And they're up against forces they can't even dream of. They have no idea what's coming in right now, and there's no way they can stop it.
So I want to talk about where we're going
Yeah,
with this
exactly.
in the next, like how we can
You were
discern.
saying the next 2 months.
Well, without fear, watching all of these systems that we've kind of grown up with, watching them crumble and change and shift, and how to discern our clear path forward, and how to use this new energy and work with Gaia, work with these ascended beings, and how to do our individual part, heal ourselves, become the divine, feminine and male and healed, do our personal work, but how we can use this energy moving forward, and what you guys are doing there at the Eceti Ranch for that exact purpose.
Yeah. Basically, there's two things. It's very simple. Universal law is written into the heart of hearts of everyone. So when you drop it into the heart, you'll know it'll either feel right or it won't feel right. And the intellect will totally override that and give you all kinds of reasons why to do things that aren't, in the highest and best good of humanity earth. But in your heart, And universal law, in a nutshell, basically is universal peace, brother, sisterly love, individual freedom, and prosperity for everyone. That's the foundation of universal law. And then you have to ask yourself, am I creating heaven on earth? Is my conscious and energy directed towards creating heaven on earth? What am I doing with my life and my energy? Where am I directing this? And that's, those two things. If people just write that on their mirror, I say write it on your mirror, put it on your refrigerator. Am I creating heaven on earth? Am I operating under universal law? And just realize universal law, again, is basically universal peace, brother, sisterly love, and individual freedom and prosperity for everybody. That's what's coming in. And everything begins in consciousness, and it drops down into light and then to energy and to mass. Well, the consciousness is changing here. The grid is changing, and so everything else below it has to follow suit. It has to change. It's not optional anymore. Mm-hmm. So we don't have the luxury of continuing to do things that are harmful to each other and to humanity and the earth, and also to operate from tyranny and from power over others. We have our power chakra sits right in our solar plexus, and that is designed to empower others and to empower us to do our own unique purpose to fulfill that. And that's all it's for. It's never used to overpower others. But the first three chakras are all screwed up right now because you've got survival in your root chakra. So you have survival, sex, and power, or survival, creation, energies, power. Those three chakras have been totally abused and used and manipulated. Look at Hollywood, what's going on there.
Right.
All the pedophile stuff and everything else. You really look about it, they're using sex to manipulate, to control, to dominate. They're using power over others to fulfill their sexual desires, all that predatory stuff. I'm not going to survive if I don't do this, it's survival. Those are all messed up right now, and they're being cleaned up. They're being brought back into alignment. And it doesn't mean they're bad, it just means they need to be aligned with the heart. And so when you're aligned with the heart, love expressed. Love needs to be expressed. And when you align with the higher dimensions above that, the source takes care of you. You're not in survival anymore. You're working from a whole different, you're working from creationary mind versus reactionary mind. So the powers that are crumbling right now, they've been trying to keep everybody in reactionary mind and create all these false flags and traumas and things like that. And then they're the solution. Then they come, we're the solution.
Buy this pill.
Dependent on us.
Vote for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we make more money.
And it keeps people locked in, and the TV and all the other stuff, and even the music industry. They keep people locked into survival, sex, and power. And where's the heart movies? Where's the movies about higher consciousness and energy? Where's Hollywood has a program. They have to have boy meets girl, boy saves girl, and now they're going boy meets girl, girl saves boy. But it's the same format, and then boy, girl save the planet, or basically, or save the city or something. They don't even deviate from that. And if you talk to most producers, they said if we don't use this formula, we're going to be a flop. Because people are so programmed, they don't even have to ring the bell anymore. People just automatically have been programmed by television and movies and things like that. And so, and that's what's breaking down right now. Their whole matrix is just falling apart.
Well, okay, so why is it that, I'm shifting gears, but the folks not from here, why are they so interested in our little tiny corner of the world?
Well, what happened is Earth is like this incredible biological zoo, you might say. and it's more than that. It's actually,
like a library.
and there's 12 major star nations involved in the colonization of Earth, which wasn't just one shot. It happened several times. And then everybody had to start over because of pole shifts or major volcanic eruptions and meteor impacts and things like that. So it's a series of colonization projects, and we're the culmination of that. And so we're the culmination of 12 major star nations. Both their plant and animal biology came here, those genetics as well as the human genetics. And nowhere else has this diversity of genetics.
Like
no
a
other
living
planet.
library, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like a living library, and it is very important. And what happened is this project, the terraforming, it was actually created to be an Eden where everything could evolve to its highest potential, and so that was the original program, and it got hijacked by these lesser beings that came in, the Draconians, the Archon grid, all that stuff. And it got hijacked, and we're way out in the boondocks. We're out in the outer arm of the Milky Way, and they've cleaned up all the interior now. They've straightened that out, and now they're moving out, and they're coming to liberate the Earth from this nonsense. And that's basically what's going on right now. There's a huge planetary liberation going on, and the tyrants are basically imploding, and that total unbridled greed and lust for power is coming to an end, because everything they seek is they're not going to get. You really think about it, why do you amass all that money? Because you want power and you want control and you want people to love you and you want the fame and you want to be accepted and loved and everything else. Well, because of their deeds, first of all, nobody's going to love them and accept them. They're just going to hang out with them for what they can get. So get out of them, basically. So where's the love there? Where's the joy there? Are they free? No, they're totally enslaved by their own mechanism. Whatever the people do, they have to react to try to keep control and things like that. They're not free. They have no freedom whatsoever. And, the money is not going to make them happy, the wealth. And they can have all the toys they want, and eventually they're going to realize how empty this whole thing is, because there's no love there. Toys don't possess emotions, and there's no emotions there. So really what they're after is that love and joy and bliss. That's the ultimate goal. They're going about it in all the wrong ways, and they'll never get it. And as a matter of fact, they've trapped themselves into going in the opposite direction. So they're not going to, that they're going to realize that they're on a downward spiral, which is going to collapse. And with this new energy, it's amplifying everything, and it's amplifying their downward spiral, and it's amplifying their karma and the action-reaction. The time between action-reaction is shortening. And so they're creating their own demise, and all they got to do is just shift gears, wake up, do a heartfelt soul forgiveness thing, and let go of it, and shift their energies towards the awakening and healing process and the restoration of humanity, Earth, and they can pull out of it. But very few are going to do this, but because they're stuck, they have a compulsive behavior program, which is programmed to just control and dominate and consume, as much as they can.
Well, how long is that process? I mean, how long? And we've done some shows on ascension and all of this info that has been coming through, and people, they think that one day we'll just kind of wake up and we'll be in a place where we don't have to have cash and everything will be equal and everybody will be healed. Yeah. And to me that seems more like wishful thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
How does that
the new
look?
Earth,
well,
right? The new Earth, and we were talking about that parallel universes and them existing simultaneously. So maybe some people are still on the old Earth, feeling all this greed with all of this power trip.
Yeah.
But other people find themselves in a much more pleasant, light, loving environment.
Yeah, a lot of people. Somebody asked me. They said, "Well, what do you see in the future?" And I said, "Well, there's about 8 billion futures being created right now,
right?
And by 8 billion beings." And so that's a better way of looking at it. But as a collective, we are moving into a brighter future. And there are things happening right now, and I'm privy to that, and I can't talk too much about it. I can talk about generalities, but there is a whole new monetary system coming in, and it will level the playing field. And, you know, I'm talking to the top people involved in this, and they're very, very close to initiating this and getting rid of, you know, the old program that is meant to keep us in abject poverty and keep our nose to the grindstone. So the more they can do that, the more we don't have that time to be creative and tap into our own God selves or goddess selves, whatever you want to call it. But what I see is that it's happening right now. We are right smack in the middle of it, the fall of the tyrants. They're going down, and they're going down very rapidly, and they're being exposed, and it's going to happen very quickly. We're right in the middle of this, and there's some things about Trump, and I'm not a Trump fan. I believe that you know, the right wing and the left wing is always the same bird, you know, and you have to figure out who's the head, you know, what's the head of the bird. And, you know, but he's doing exactly what he came here to do. He came here to shake it up, to shake everything up, to expose it, let people see what it is. And his main job is to restore the republic and bring back, you know, and get rid of the feds. You know, basically that's his thing, and bring back a fair system, a fairer system. And so it's a series of steps. We're not ready for a Gandhi right now. You know, people... A Gandhi, they would just kill. You know, he would be gone in no time. We need a warrior. We need somebody that's going to go there and shake things up. And regardless of you know, I'm not saying he's perfect or anything else, but he's doing exactly what he came here to do. And he does need to shake things up. And you know, as far as the open borders thing, you know, you can't bring two cultures together that are diametrically opposed and think you're going to have a good outcome. You know, we've seen that, you know, over in Europe where they've just totally destroyed cultures over there and countries and things like that. And that is their intention. Their intention is not to bring everybody together in peace and harmony. They're there to just totally create as much chaos and destruction as possible so they can come in and pick up the pieces, you know, and establish their you know, totalitarian state, you know, with them in charge. You know, that's the end goal of that. And again, people need to realize that. First of all, a lot of the Muslims that they've been duped into believing that, you know, they're going to, you know, those old programs. There's so many of them. You're going to get 72 virgins, you know, and all these things if you do a jihad and die, you know, and stuff like that. It's just, you know, that's not God. I hate to tell you that if they really had an experience with the source itself, they would experience it as the most loving, unconditionally loving, joyous, blissful energy you can imagine. It's beyond imagination. There's no jihad there. I'm sorry. You know, it's like that's a program that came from the fallen Anunnaki. It came from Marduk. You know, Marduk is actually on the dinar. And Marduk is the one that actually made a pact with the reptilians and the lower beings for total supremacy over the earth, and he went against his own people. And that's historically written, you know. So basically, it's written in stone. You know, you see these guys standing right next to these reptilian beings and these other beings, and it's all carved in stone right there. That's not myth. That's exactly what happened. And so we're still cleaning that up. We're cleaning that mess up that's been going on for quite some time. So, you know, there are non-human beings that have no love for humanity, no respect for life at all. As a matter of fact, some of them, you know, and this is a walk on the wild side, some of them just see us as food, basically. They have no respect whatsoever for the Creator and all creation. They're actually warring against creation, and that's what you're seeing with, you know, all the chemtrails and all the other things going on. You know, it's, you know, the inoculations, the chemtrails, everything. They would like to see most of it gone. And this is a hard pill to swallow, but, you know, it is the red pill. The good news is that the higher dimensional beings coming in are putting an end to that program. And so a lot of people are sitting in their house and they don't even realize all these
All
things
this
are going on.
it's like
I know.
Star Wars is
Yeah.
real. You think that
it's like-
bar that you go into and there are all these different
hologram.
entities, and
Yeah.
that's real. That's happening.
Or the
It's-
Matrix is real.
so I'd like to switch gears too,
Yeah.
unless you have a thought.
Yeah,
I wanted to
I-
go to the ranch.
Yeah, but I do. Oh God, where did it go? Right out of my head. It is. So there was a law that said people could not get involved because why are
We were like quarantined, right, for a long time.
Yeah.
but the negative could, but then the positive, the benevolence couldn't get involved. So now they've kind of said, okay, that's enough. Now it's time.
Yeah,
We're stepping in.
quarantine's over, hands off. They put their gloves on and they're getting busy right now, and so they realized the quarantine program didn't work. They're hoping that we would evolve and learn to lead ourselves and things like that. The problem is there's so much negative influence, as I was saying before, so much oppression that they have to come in and lift that to give us a shot, give us equal footing, so we can evolve and go
Or
to
even
the
know
next
to
level
look.
and actually make a choice.
Yeah, even
You
though
know-
we have a choice.
So I've been there. They've, long story, but basically I went to this place and what she showed me was the earth and then just this black ooze that went across it. And she said, we've decided to take people off. So was that one option? And we've decided not to do that, not to just remove people, but to just go ahead and come in and clean the ooze off, for lack of better
Yeah,
way
what
to say that.
I think the plan basically is it's all being done in frequency, with frequencies and energies. The higher consciousness, again, is that pure, unconditional love and joy and bliss. That energy's coming in, and it carries with it universal law. The lower frequency stuff it's called sympathetic resonance. It has to evolve. It has to rise up, or it's done. It can't stay here anymore. And so that's basically how they're working mainly, but they are doing hands-on things. They've cleaned out a lot of bases here of the negative ETs. They've done a lot of hands-on work here, and cut the cords between the puppet masters and the puppets. And so now it's up to us to rise up and reclaim our divinity and, act according to universal law and hold our leadership, both business, political, and business institutions to universal law, and just say, common law is very close to universal law. The Bill of Rights and the Constitution and things like that are very close to universal law. The problem is that all got usurped, and a whole other system was put in its place, and that's collapsing too. And that's what the Republic's about. Restoring the Republic is part of that. It's going back to common law and universal law, and these old tyrannical programs, which are predatory, are going to come to an end. Like the Just Us system is no longer going to be a true justice system, and not the Just Us system anymore.
I just have one more thing to ask, and then because I've never heard anyone talk about this. So when we die and we cross, how does where we go factor into all of this? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, basically, what happens is, we are a collection of consciousness and energy, you might say, that has a frequency to it. And we're going to gravitate to something, to that plane of existence that matches our frequency. So if you're full of love and joy and bliss and service, you're going to go to the highest levels, no problem. And if you're full of anger and jealousy and rage and you want to control and dominate or whatever, you're not going to go very far. The good news is that when you do cross over, there's like a gift. I would call it like a burn, where a lot of that stuff is burned off. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect to get into the higher dimensions, but your intention, I always tell people, all it takes is an open mind, a loving heart, and pure intent, and you're going to get there. It doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. That's how we gain the wisdom, through experience. And sin is an archery term. It just means you missed. That's all it means.
So,
hell is...
Missed the mark.
Yeah, if you didn't have enough money, if you didn't have enough shekels to have a proper burial, they would throw you on the garbage pit and burn you along with the other garbage, and that's what hell is.
that's where hell
It's
comes
not-
from?
Yeah, that's where the word hell comes from.
Funeral
You're going to
pyre.
burn in hell, because
Or
you
on
didn't
hell.
make
On
something
the
of
hill.
yourself,
It's like a Texan. They don't say hill, they say hell. We're gonna burn you on the hill.
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's what I'm saying. All of these misunderstandings from the past that have been recorded by men that did the best they could, and they took out most of the women's stuff. Even in the Bible, the Apocrypha had all the women's teachings in there, and Michael's teachings about reincarnation. Everything is in there. They took all that out. So we need to bring that back in and get a more balanced view, and actually do some major research on the real history of Earth, and then we'll see that it's like we've had a lot of experiences. There's been a lot of little g gods, not God, but little g gods down here running around. They're very technologically advanced beings that we would revere them as gods just because of some of their stature. They're very tall and they have some extremely advanced technology, but they weren't, the Anunnaki, all those legends about the Greek gods and the demigods and everything, all that came from the Anunnaki, which those who came from heaven to earth. And in the ancient days, it was great. You drop in on the earth, the Earth B&B, and you get their fatted calf and their virgins, and all you got to do is a few tricks, and you're in, and that went on a lot in the past. And some of those guys were very benevolent, and some weren't. Some were very manipulative and control freaks, and that's our ancient history. And we need to realize that we need to read that with fresh eyes, with new eyes, and look at what really happening. It's time for this civilization to grow up and embrace its ancient roots and realize where our belief systems come from.
Well, they have,
because in the word believe, there's a lie in the middle. The B-E-L-I-E-V-E.
it's your, yeah.
So always remember, your beliefs. Where did your beliefs come from? How did you establish your beliefs? What were your sources? How were you raised? And things like that. And so, my thing is, to get out in nature is the best thing you can do, and meditate. Get out in nature and meditate, and just make your own personal connection, and let all that other stuff just kind of wash away.
Well, that's a great way for me to ask you about your ranch, because you have the Eceti Ranch up there in Washington State, and we have about 5 minutes, so we could talk to you for hours. But people can come. I know you're about to winterize the camp for the year, but people can come up there. So maybe you can just give people just a quick synopsis of the ranch and the phenomenon that people experience on a regular basis, that you guys have contact with these beings, and people can come and have their own personal encounter.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about. Some people say we're a cult, and I said, but, there's nothing to join. I said,
no money,
we're just
no membership.
we're a lot of free-thinking people that come here. We have a free newsletter. You can join that, but we don't have any, and there's no guru here. I don't call myself a guru. I'm here to remind people of what's within them. And so there is no hierarchy or guru status here. So it's important to realize that. And we really inspire people to, think critically, to develop their own discernment, and to lead themselves, not to have, constantly let other people lead them. But that's our main function here. And people can just go to the website, just go to the Eceti.org website, or they can go to the YouTube channel, the Eceti Stargate, if they want to see what's going on here. But basically, it's a vortex. It's like a power spot. A sacred place. Everybody has different names for these places. And the veils between worlds are very thin here. So whatever you're into, you're going to experience. And so if you're really into the nature kingdom, you'll see a lot of the nature spirits and actually photograph them and things like that here. If you're into the angelic kingdom or the ascended masters, we have a lot of them actually physically appearing here. And we have photographs of them, appearing. They'll drop down into, it's not really a physical body, it's a magnetized light body, but we photograph them quite a bit. And then, we have the spiritual and technologically advanced off-worlders coming here on a regular basis. And we're right at the base of Mount Adams, which has a doorway into the inner earth, which is a whole nother
Is that the
show, probably.
The garage door. I saw that. That was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Well,
There's actually 3 doors. There's 3 doors up there that are very active. Two are very active. The garage door, something happened up there. Something else came in and kind of leveled the top of that mountain, and that's been sealed off again, it looks like. So I think it got so much press that some of the other, I don't know if it's our own secret space fleet or something, somebody came in there with a blinking light on it. Most of the ETs don't have strobes on them, but something came there with a strobe on it. Next morning there was all this rubble over that entrance. So I think that there's elements that don't want this information out.
We're going to have to do our own joyride.
Yeah, we're
road
totally
trip
coming
up
out.
there.
I mean, it is. I really wanted to try to make it up there
And
this
it just
year.
reminds me, I had a dream last night where I watched this cloud, and it was cloaking an ET vessel. And when the cloud dissipated, there was a ship. So
You're getting ready.
I'm
for
getting
today.
ready to have my own experience, I guess. I've had plenty of experience with human spirit and people that I've known and loved, but I have not had my own personal experience with off-world beings.
Well, we've
yet.
seen spacecraft. I've seen 3 since June or July, but
I'm very open to just come and have this personal experience, because once you have your own, it's undeniable, and then you really can start investigating and seeing everything with fresh eyes and saying there's a whole lot more going on than what we've all been led to believe, and we're being called to that with this new energy. And we just have a couple minutes left, so I wanted to let everybody know you've also written a couple of books: Reunion with Source, Becoming Gods, The Ultimate Soul Journey, and you've got a documentary, Contact Has Begun. Your latest book, Anunnaki Return, Star Nations, and the Days to Come. So there's so many ways to get this information: your website, your YouTube video, your books, interviews that you've done, because we've just scratched the surface here.
Really, seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How do you stay safe? How are you even still here?
Yeah. There's been quite a few attempts.
Have there?
Luckily, I have other beings watching over me. And, and some of the stuff I have to go through like everybody else, some of the stuff they're doing. But I always figure out a way to transcend it, and I always know who to call for help, to clear this out. And help's available, but we have to initiate it, learn to initiate it. But, they've played a lot of games, and they've lost a lot of hardware, in the process. And but that's coming to a close, basically. That group is running out of everything, so they won't be able to pull this off much longer.
Yay!
Well, thank you for making sense of all of this and putting it in a way that we can just start to grasp. And if it resonates with our friends that are joining us, there's really so much that we can have a conversation about and talk about and see a new truth in things that we hadn't seen before, and how to let go of this old tyrannical ruling and kind of mind numbing, and really critically think for yourself. So
I think you have to unplug too. That really helps.
Yeah.
To not be
Yeah, I think
fed
too. It's really important to realize that the ETs you've been waiting for are you. So
Yes,
so it's like
you are your
these
own.
are our ancestors that are coming back, and the invasion that everybody's worried about, has already happened.
It's
the
us.
souls entering the body. That was the invasion. And it's already happened, and a lot of people have incarnated from these advanced civilizations now for this time.
Yeah.
And they're being initiated and awakened, and they're in very high levels.
James,
within all institutions. So
can we
it's
invite
on
you
right
back? We hate to interrupt. Can we invite you back to continue this, because you've been a blessing. Thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you for everything.
who have joined us on this
Thank you for coming
joyride
on.
into the beyond and back. Thank you.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye, James.